So my name is Liz Johnston, and I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm a private voice teacher there, and I call myself a singing teacher vocalogist, because you can be a speech language vocalogist, you can be a doctor vocalogist, but it just means that you have a little bit of extra training in the specialty of voice and the function of voice. And the reason I like to talk about this so much is because we are on the edge of a whole new world of voice, a whole new era of voice, and it's really exciting to talk to you guys because you are the future of this field. This is a really, really young field. I'll talk about that in a second. But I'm hoping that there's a couple people in here that get really excited about this, because the first voice science lecture that I ever went to, my brain exploded, my heart exploded, and I was like, I have to know about this, because as voice teachers, it's really hard to get the information about how the voice is working underneath. And so for a long time I taught lessons and was pretty effective at it because I'm pretty intuitive and I understand music and sound, and you work on things and they get better, but nobody ever taught me how it worked underneath. And knowing that there were people out there that understood some of these things just made me get really excited and want to know more. And so basically I've just been going around and trying to hang out with people who understand this stuff, and I always felt like the classical singers kind of had a corner on like pedagogy and the science stuff, and it was kind of like that, and so I just kept going and going, and eventually just got a bunch of knowledge together, and that's what I use in my practice. So the type of people that I see in Nashville are people who, like you, can sing. Everybody in this room can sing. Can you guys say, I can sing? Right. Remind yourself of that constantly, because I think a lot of times you go into voice lessons feeling like there's something broken or that we need to do something better, but you can sing. We just get more skill and we learn more as life goes on. There's nothing broken here. If you can speak, you guys all got into school, you can sing, right? You have to keep reminding yourself of that, because one of the first voice technicians I ever met with, this guy is a singing voice specialist out in Portland, and he fixes voices. He fixes people who are shut down, completely shut down, and he helps revive their function, and I've learned a lot from him. I'll show you his picture in a second. And I'm a jazz singer. I love to sing jazz. I was a saxophone player. I turned into a singer eventually, right? So as long as my voice does what I need it to do, and I can scat, and I can do what I need to do, I don't have to do all the vocal things, right? So I went in to see this guy, and he was like, okay, cool, you can sing. And I was like, whoa, because I knew he could hear every single flaw in my voice. I knew he could hear everything that was going on with my voice, beyond what I could even imagine. Super intimidating. And he was like, oh yeah, you can sing, you're cool. I was like, really? He was like, yeah, you can sing. Like, okay, I knew that, but I didn't expect him to say that. And he's like, yeah, we just put a little bit of technique, a little bit of function underneath, and then let's just see what happens. And then it made it fun to actually work on sound and to work on what was going on. And then when you understand a little bit more of why you're doing what you're doing, then everything kind of becomes fun. Does that make sense? All right, so we have this super low-tech PDF presentation that I'm going to show you. All right, so a couple of my voice science heroes. Okay, this guy, you like the low-res photos too? Yeah, great. Ingo Titze on the left. He is a name that you need to know because he's still alive, very much alive. He's one of the fathers of modern voice science, or vocalogy. This guy actually coined the phrase vocalogy, and he's still alive, if that tells you anything. He's brilliant. He's a physicist, and basically he was a singer as well. And so when he was in his 20s, he was taking voice lessons, and he would ask his teacher, why are we doing this exercise? And the teacher would say, well, I don't know, just do it, right? It's because we don't know. There's so much we still don't know. So this guy was like, okay, cool, I'm going to figure it out. So he's figured out the biomechanics of the larynx and some of the acoustic stuff. I mean, there's a lot of people in the field, but this guy has done so much work. You will see his work referenced constantly, Ingo Titze. And he's also one of the kindest human beings I've ever met. So to me, he's just an extraordinary human because he doesn't need to prove anything. He's just curious. He wanted to learn, and he shared his knowledge with the world, and we're all better off for it. Tom Blaylock in the middle is the guy I was telling you about in Portland. He is a singing voice specialist.
So he literally helps people get their function back from almost nothing. You know what I mean? There's a lot that goes along with that. And then the guy on the right, Tom Cleveland, he is a voice therapist and a PhD over at the Vanderbilt Voice Center, where I live in Nashville. And he's the guy who did the first presentation I ever saw on vocal function and how the voice works, and completely, in 1 hour, completely changed my life. So these are just a couple of my heroes. Okay, so what is vocology? Have you guys heard the word vocology? Right? Okay, good. Basically voice science, right? So George Gates and Ingo Tietze, 1989. I know a lot of you were born after 1989, but this is not that long ago. So do you understand that we're right on the edge of the beginning of a whole new field of study? Can you help me really quick? Mm-hmm. Okay, so these are my vocal cords for demo purposes. Okay, so these are the cords, right? Here, you hold this end. Okay, so the vocal cords open and close like this, right? This is the front of the throat, or the right here, your Adam's apple, and then this is the back of your throat, right? So I'm going to have you stand over there for a second. So your vocal cords actually stretch this way, stay still, and then they get shorter, right? And then they also open and close, right? So if something happens to this edge of the tissue right here, where those cords cannot come together cleanly, then there's going to be some distortion of the sound, okay? Another reason that you might not be able to make sound, and this is kind of scary, I don't mean to freak anybody out, but if one cord is paralyzed and the other can't reach it, no sound. Right, terrifying, right? Right? So those are a couple of reasons, but that's the function. So stay right there. So if I'm going to go higher in pitch, guys get it? Is that helpful? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. We may get more into that too. That's it. You know, there are a couple of situations that you need to be careful of, and one of them is if you're singing and then all of a sudden your sound goes and it's just gone. Whatever you're doing, stop. That is one of those times where something could have happened to one of the, and you just need to stop and you need to get to a doctor, right? Okay, so let's talk about correct sound for a second. Can anybody tell me what correct sound is? Right, there is no correct sound, right? Hey. I'm going to put this up here. It was way cooler when I had the presentation on. Anyway, so there is no such thing as correct sound anymore. Has anybody ever run into the attitude of like, well, this is the only style that's healthy, or this is the only, right, or this is the only thing we should be doing, blah, 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 blah. I think those days are almost over, and I'm really, really hoping that after this presentation, you guys, like, your brains explode, and you're like, there's no such thing as correct sound, and you can just have a whole bunch of fun with your sound, right? I think a much better model for it is this one. Okay? I think about this all the time. I think I'm going to start a band called the Great Continuum. Yeah. Right? Because we're all on this continuum, right? The least efficient sound is going to be somebody who, I got nothing, right? That's like no efficiency. The most efficient, who are the most efficient singers in the world? She may be, actually. Who, like, on the like, extreme end. Yeah. Think outside your genre. Right. 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 And why do opera singers need to be the most efficient at what they do? Right. They have to be able to get their sound off the stage unmiked to the back. Right? This is old school stuff. No microphones, right? Yay, that's not us. Woo! Right? So if you think about like, oh, I'm just heading toward more efficient constantly, then you're cool, right? So there are going to be people that are less efficient than you and more efficient than you, but it's one big, huge party in the middle. And I wish and I hope that we can all meet there and have a whole bunch of fun together. You know what I mean? Because then once you take the weight out of it, or the stigma away from I have to do this or this or this, off of yourself, then you can actually explore a little bit more and have fun. Right? All right. Okay, so let's talk about the mechanical systems of the voice really, really quickly. So, power source, sound source, resonator. These are the three mechanical parts of your voice, right? Lungs, diaphragm, abdominal wall, everything that runs the airflow basically below your larynx. And then you have the sound source, the larynx itself, where the vocal folds or the vocal cords live. And then you have the resonator, which is basically the vocal tract or the tube above that. All right? And when all three of those systems are working efficiently and together, boom, this is what your voice teacher is trying to get you to do, is to get all of these things to work together in concert so that you can make really efficient sound or make better sound, then things work well. Talking about the larynx, there are recordings out there. I don't have one personally, but they can take a microphone and drop it into the throat and put it right above the level of the vocal folds, and it sounds like this. And they could be singing opera or country, you just wouldn't know. Because everything above the vocal folds filters the sound and makes it sound the way we want it to, right? So the reason you sound the way you do is because of your heritage, right? I'm Irish and English and Swedish, a full quarter Swede, and because of the Swedish, I have a little bit bigger resonator than I would if I were just purely English and Irish. What does an English or Irish singer sound like? Can you guys think of like an Appalachian, like English-Irish voice? Real small, tight, right? So where are the best singers, like where do a lot of the opera singers come from? Italy, right? Think about how an Italian resonator is shaped. It's very different. So here's the takeaway, the positive from this. You have the ability to manipulate your sound within a certain range, but you're always just going to kind of sound like you to an extent, right? So for you to try to manipulate your sound to sound like somebody else, it's just a lot of work that maybe you don't need to go through, you know what I mean? And so this is where we get into the conversation about how do you learn to love what God gave you, you know what I mean? And just for some of us, that's a really, really long process, right? But you got to stay in your own lane. You've got to stay in your own lane no matter what. And that also means you cannot compare yourself to how you sounded last week or how you're going to sound in the future, because what you got is right here, right now. You don't sound like this person, thank God. You don't sound like that person. We need you. We need you and your voice. And that resonator has everything to do with it. Now, when I learned about resonator shape, so think about like a ukulele, right? A ukulele body, tiny. Upright bass body, huge. You can't get a ukulele sound out of a bass and vice versa, right? Because of the size. It just is what it is. And when you start thinking like that, then you can start to kind of feel, you know, where you are in space. Anyway. What's that?
Can the airy sound like of not touching vocal cords, could that be harmful if it's consistently done?
Yes, it's a lack of function. Okay? So if you can only keep your vocal cords that far apart, right, and that's all you can do, and you never practice anything else, then you're just missing out on some function. You want to make sure that the body can bring those cords together to kind of keep everything lined up. And it happened several times today in lessons where we just brought the cords together and then all of a sudden everything else lined up and felt really good because the body was like, I got it. It knew what to do right off the bat. You know what I mean? And it's also, and I want you to sing breathy. I don't care if you sing breathy, but I do want you to be able to have some core tone in your lower register every single day. Who's willing to do a little bit of upper? Okay. Yeah. Don't judge me on this because I know, all I know is what I know. So, can you do this? Can you go, you, 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 you? Feel that? Yeah. Do you guys feel how light that is? I want everyone to be able to make that. So let's do two different sounds. Let's go, you, you. Right? You, you. That's good upper register. Okay, so let's do one exercise. N-Y-O-O, new.
New. Is that the pinched one?
No, we're going to do the hootie tone.
No.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh. it. How's it feel?
It feels, because I've been working on mixing for a really long time, so it feels really different because I started learning that way in classical training.
Yes.
So it feels like a weird
Yes.
echo.
Yeah, it is a weird echo, and it's great, but we don't sing on that sound in pop music.
No.
But I'll tell you what, if things start getting weird in your voice, go to this sound and work it a little bit, and it's magical what it does for pop singers. Because there's,
Sorry, could you just dial back, because you told her not to mix.
yes,
Can you
get into that?
just do that for a minute and tell them what you heard and how
Okay.
you changed it?
Okay. Okay, can you mix a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, you. Make it taller and hootier. To me, that's still a mix. Okay, a little bit of chord
so
tone.
you said mix and then not mix.
Yep. Right. So the first those two sounds that you
Those were
made,
mixes.
to me they were mixing,
Yeah.
because I'm trying to cut out all the upper harmonics. I want. Right? It's taken me years. Yeah, it's taken me years to find that sound. But you hear how ringy and live it is? It has everything to do with that space, right? You kind of started to mix. Go back to your you. Yeah. Uh-huh. Now go to pure head. Uh-huh. That kind of sound. Does that make sense? Does that clear it up? Okay. Now, thank you very much. So we have this thing called the spectrogram, right? We can start looking at sound. And I'm going to do this really quick. I'm going to get somebody else to demonstrate for us.
We got a guy up there to do it?
Yes. Yes.
Want to get any male students in here?
Okay. So, because we're running low on time, what I want to do is just have you sing an ooh to an e. Ooh, ee, ooh, ee, but on the same pitch. Go ahead. Do it again. Can you come closer to the microphone? Yeah, do it again. Okay. Okay. Let's see if this works. I'm doing a super down and dirty. I'm going to take out part of this sound and just listen to part of this sound. Let's see what happens. Okay. So these are the first two harmonics of his voice, I think. No. I've got more. No. Okay, so I've got more of it. Listen, we're going to listen back to this really quick and see what it sounds like. What?
What?
The ooh and the e carry the ooh vowel underneath the entire time because their first formant is the same. Right? So do it again, same pitch. You hear it now?
Yeah.
Yep. So good. Thank you so much. Ingo Tietze, I interviewed him a few years ago and he said, maybe we have more in common than we ever thought. He's talking about all the voice teachers, all the singers, all the people that don't understand each other. I